Welcome back to the 10 Adventures podcast. Today we are talking about an epic journey, specifically the bike tour from Alaska to Argentina. But we are also talking about something more, about what it is possible to accomplish after you retire. Here to talk is Bob Fletcher, who has spent his retirement exploring the world under his own power. Hi, Bob. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm great. I'm very thankful to be here with you, Richard.
So I stumbled upon your blog, and I think it's just incredible. So you turned 80 in 2022. And so like most 80-year-olds, you decided to cycle 15,000 kilometers from Fairbanks, Alaska to Panama City. And then the following year, here in 2023, you finished the job and cycled from Cartagena, Colombia to Ushuaia in Argentina. And I find that super inspirational. And my first question is what's your secret of being so healthy and being so active as you age?
I really don't have any secret. It's probably in the DNA somewhere that needs to be explored. But it was just a case of me saying, gee, I'm going to get to 80 next year, and I should do something to celebrate my 80th birthday, because I really thought I'd never make it to 80, but I did. So I came up with that idea to ride an electric bike from North Pole, Alaska, and there is a North Pole, Alaska. It's a small city outside of Fairbanks, down to Panama. And it kind of expanded from there, and it grew. It morphed into something that maybe I'm going to be doing for the whole decade of the 80s. And along the way, I picked up a Guinness Book of World Records for the longest motorized bicycle ride journey. And that was accomplished by getting to Panama in 2022. It was just a way of celebrating my 80th birthday. It had nothing to do with living the good lifestyle or anything, although I've traveled the world on my bike, and I've cycled in something like 29 different countries right now.
So I want to get into your journey in a little bit, but I just want to go back and maybe describe your background. You know, are you some sort of superhuman athlete who's been doing this stuff all your life? Or are you just a regular person like the rest of us?
I'm like the rest of everybody that's listening to your podcast here, Richard. Just an ordinary guy. I always loved sports. I played every sport there is, from baseball, hockey, football, sailing, golf, you name it, skiing. In fact, one time my son said, "Dad, you should get a tattoo, but it should be a sleeve of every sport that you've played." And I didn't follow him up on that at all, but it's just an indication that I wasn't particularly good at anything, but I liked doing everything. And cycling was one thing that I seemed to have some talent at. And that talent is being able to sit on a bicycle seat for 8 or 10 hours a day. And that's about all the talent I have. I'm not a super athlete. Maybe I have some talent of slowly, one step at a time, 1 kilometer at a time. Let's do 10 more kilometers and then another 10, and then pretty soon the ride is finished and I could take a break. But pretty ordinary guy. I spent my life as an educator, 30 years with the Edmonton Public School Board, and a small couple of times in Australia, teaching in Sydney and being a principal in Wollongong, Australia as well. So nothing out of the ordinary, just a guy that likes to participate in sports and keep active.
And once you retired, you really took to doing some big adventures. Do you want to maybe describe some of the other trips you did once you retired?
Right. There's a number of trips, but a couple of things took place at that time after retirement. After retirement, I decided that I needed to be active. I needed to be doing something. And I did start a small little business taking golfers to Australia to golf in the Canadian winter, which is their summer down there. And I did that for about 8 years. Then my wife got diagnosed as Alzheimer's, and that put an end to that. And She passed away 11 years ago this coming June. And she always liked to travel, and she taught me how to travel way back. In 1968, we made our first trip around the world. At her suggestion, we went to Australia and continued around. So with those things in mind, a lot of the adventures before her death were together with her. After her death, it became a solo journey. I did some things in memory of her, like walking the Camino de Santiago and dedicating my certificate to her. She loved the book Kilimanjaro, so I decided I better climb Kilimanjaro and dedicate that to her as well. So the first part of a lot of my journeys were in memory of her, and also because she trained me in wanting to be an adventure-seeking person and to travel the world as well. So over the years, so I've cycled in countries such as India. I've cycled from 2015 from Anchorage, Alaska to Mexico City. I climbed Kilimanjaro, as I mentioned. I rafted in the Nile River in Uganda. Climbed Mount Fuji. Cycled in Australia. Walked the Camino. Many, many different things that just seem to keep me active, and I take off and do some other adventure. I prefer to do it on a bicycle seat, but not always.
What a great way to honor the legacy of your wife and stay active and explore the world in a different way. A lot of people, as soon as they retire, they almost, get a place on a cruise and they explore the world, on a cruise ship. And you kind of took the different approach and explored the world under your own power. And definitely, that's how I want to live my retirement, is exactly what you've done. And that leads into this big trip you just did. And so for people that can't even visualize, what this route might be like, how, can you explain it briefly in almost a country by country level, where the route goes if people are thinking of how do I ride from Alaska to Argentina?
Well, it does take some planning. The first thing that entered my mind is because in 2015 that we did that trip from Anchorage, Alaska to Mexico City. So I didn't want to take the same route, so I wanted to take a different route down. For Alaska, Yukon, it's pretty much the same route. There's only one major road up there, so you got to ride it no matter where you're going. But then I decided I would head over and do the West Coast, cross to Vancouver and then down the West Coast of the United States. Instead of going down the Baja where the traditional cyclists that are doing this trip, and there's a number of them that do it every year, they go down the Baja and take the ferry over to Mazatlan. I went across the top of Mexico and then down through the Sonora Desert, through the area that most people would say the cartels control the area and don't go there, and made my way down that side of Sea of California, Gulf of California and the Sea of Cortez to Mazatlan, and then we cut over to south of Mexico City. We didn't go there because I'd been there before, and then we made our way down through Oaxaca into Guatemala and through Central America to Panama. So that was pretty well the route. Sat down and I looked at a lot of maps. I do my planning by looking. I want to do an average of 100 kilometers a day. Is there a hotel? Is there a campground or something at that point? If there isn't, then okay, is there one at 120 or 115 or 95? And the route gets planned, and I'm different than most of the bike packers who they travel free. They don't have a schedule. They don't know where they're going to be the next week or something like that. They don't know how long they're going to stay in each place. When I travel, I have a 5-month itinerary, and I try and stick to it as a day-by-day itinerary because I have a team and people cycling with me, so I need to be at different places at different times for them to join us or to celebrate my 80th birthday. I couldn't miss my birthday party by being late in Newport, Oregon, so I always have this time restraints on me when I travel.
And, interesting. So you talked about you did it with a team. So what did the team provide in terms of doing the route? Was it like a support van that would carry luggage and do things like that?
I had a great team. I had a young team. I had a team that covered different countries. I had Yoda from Greece, who did the management of everything, worked on the books, did the hotel reservations, did driving. I had Kim from Denmark, who was a photographer and the drone operator, who did the northern part. I had Kyle, who was a media person from the United States, who ran drones and movie cameras and 360s and did a lot of the photography work. I had Joanna from Colombia, who was my Spanish-speaking person, who got me through all the border crossings and helped a great deal. And I had Wayne from Edmonton, who rode with me almost every day as we traveled the highways and byways going down to Panama. So it was a great team, and I had a support vehicle, a Dodge Grand Caravan that was quite large and could carry a lot. I slept in there every night that we camped, and the team towed a tent trailer where the rest of the people slept in the tent trailer, unless we were doing Airbnbs or hotels. And we did a lot of that once we crossed into Mexico, where accommodation was much cheaper. So it was a well-supported team. I rode without any luggage or anything on my bike like a bike packer does. They're amazing with how much they carry, and they ride solo. So I went with the support team, the sport vehicle, and it worked out really well. For South America, I used the same support van. I used Joanna again for my Spanish-speaking person and driver, and my wife Gloria accompanied me as a manager and hotel booking person. And the three of us did South America without a tent trailer.
Wow, what an expedition. You planned this all yourself. And did you find there were days where you just didn't want to get on the bike and go to the next place you'd planned to be months before?
Yes, for sure. It's kind of like work, There's some days you think, I don't want to get out of bed Monday morning, go to work, that kind of thing. But you do, and you get to work, and the day ends up pretty good. There's lots of days, so maybe I can sleep in another hour before I get on the bike and go. But no, our daily routine was sort of wake up around 7, put the coffee pot on, have some breakfast, get organized, probably on the road around 8:30, stop for a coffee break about 10:30, lunch around 1 o'clock, another coffee break later on, and then about 4 o'clock a beer break, and finally pedal into the campground or hotel, and the team would have everything set up for us. And then the evening was enjoy your dinner and a little activity exploring the area, and then early to bed, early to rise.
You gave the route down to Panama City, but from Cartagena, what was the route down to Ushuaia? What countries did you go through?
We went through, obviously, Colombia, and Colombia was the most difficult of all the countries to go through, because we climbed in that country something like 40,000 meters of climbing, which was almost 1/3 of the total climbing of the whole 5.5 months that we were on the road. So we went through Colombia, then into Ecuador into Peru into Bolivia into Argentina into Chile, Patagonia, back into Argentina, back into Chile, and finally we finished in Ushuaia, in the bottom of Argentina. Every country was unique and different. We went through the jungles and the rainforests of Colombia and Ecuador. We went through the 3 weeks of nothing but sand dunes and sand in Peru as we cycled down the coast there. We went through high altitudes of 4,800 meters through Bolivia. And then you get into Chile and Argentina that are fairly modern countries, and more European in nature, and you get back to restaurants and wine and fine dining, and then you get into the desolate countries of Argentina, where the wind blows at 80 kilometers an hour and knocks you off the bike as you try and go through this flat land to get down to the end of the world, as they say. So the countries varied, the scenery varied, the people were the same everywhere. Excellent, great people. Never had any problems in any of the 15 countries that we passed through at all. And I can't imagine that anywhere else than North and South America where the people were so hospitable, generous, interested, want to talk to you, want to know about you, and want to get their picture taken with you. It was an awesome journey.
That sounds so incredible. I'm interested, when you're riding, are you riding on major highways? Or is there a good network of secondary roads? Are there, if you're on busy roads, is there a good shoulder? What can people expect? Obviously, it's going to change country to country, but maybe give an overview for people who are interested in this trip.
In Alaska, Yukon, northern British Columbia through to Vancouver, it was on highways, but there was very little traffic, good shoulders in most cases. From United States on the West Coast, coast is amazing through Oregon and California. And it's a busy highway because it's a tourist season and everything, but I had a sign on the back of my bike that said, in that case, Alaska to Panama, and people would honk and wave, and they didn't seem to be annoyed that I was slowing them down. There was a lot of traffic and a lot of up and downs there. The roads are good. In Canada, the United States, excellent. Into Mexico, the roads stayed pretty good. We had a choice of going on the free roads or going on the toll roads, and we ended up doing a lot of toll roads after a while because we tried to follow established bike routes that different apps would take us on, and they just led us nowhere. And we ended up sitting on the side of the road debating, do we go back and turn around, or do we try and keep going? And we ended up taking a lot of 4-lane freeways with wide shoulders and a lot of traffic. As we got further down, we stayed a lot of time on the Pan American Highway, so there was a lot of traffic. In Mexico, we had a lot of rough roads, speed bumps, cobblestones, potholes. The poor bikes took a beating as we hit all that rough roads. South America, the roads were probably better than in Mexico and South America, but we had to stay on established highways. There just isn't any paved country lanes and everything like that. There's a little more of that in Chile and Argentina, but for the rest of it, and the major roads are the only paved roads, and I like to stay on the paved roads. I'm not like some of the bike backers that take off and head for the gravel and the dirt roads and explore that way.
And I'm really interested in your choice of an e-bike. And you mentioned you hold the Guinness record for the longest e-bike journey. And I haven't met anyone who's done, I think, more than maybe a 2 or 3 week bike tour. Can you tell me a little bit about why you chose an e-bike, how it performed, any tips for people who are thinking of this type of trip on an e-bike?
Well, my history before e-bikes was, I'm going to ride my road bike, I'm going to ride my mountain bike till I can't ride anymore, and I'm not going to take up an e-bike. That's sort of like cheating. But I did a tour from Amsterdam to Rome, and on that particular tour, 3 things sort of caught my attention. One was on the first couple of days, it's a Saturday and a Sunday, and we're riding in Amsterdam or riding in Netherlands. And I noticed a lot of elderly people, seniors, out biking. Oh, this is nice, husband and wife biking. And I noticed they were on e-bikes and enjoying the nature and getting out into the countryside. Later on, I was huffing and puffing up a mountain in Switzerland when I heard a noise, and I looked to my left, and a lady come by on an e-bike, and she wasn't huffing and puffing. Wow, that's kind of interesting. She's not working as hard as I am. And then the third thing was we were in Italy, I think, and I heard a noise, and I was battling a headwind. And the noise was another lady on an e-bike, but right behind her drafting was her husband on a road bike, and she was providing the lead bike so he could draft behind, and they left me in the dust. So I got thinking, well, maybe there's something to do with an e-bike. The next thing that happened, Richard, was that I used to conduct cycle tours through Costa Rica. We did about 6 of them for friends and people around the world that came down. And somewhere around the third or fourth one, I got a request from 2 people. Do you have an e-bike to rent? Because my wife likes to ride an e-bike and cycle with me. The other fellow said, I have bad knees, I need an e-bike. So I went and bought 2 inexpensive e-bikes in San Jose, Costa Rica. And I spent a month riding them, and I thought, oh, they're pretty good. I kind of enjoy this. But after a month, I thought, well, I'm still getting exercise. That's good. But I went back to my road bike and my mountain bike. And I continued on with that for a while. And then I had an accident, and I crashed, and I broke my hip and broke 3 ribs, and ended up that I had to cancel the tour in Chile, and I had to stay off having crutches and wheelchairs for about 6 weeks, I think it was. So I had a tour lined up in Germany from Frankfurt out to Czech Republic. And I'm in no way can I do this because I'm out of shape. I better rent a electric bike. So I rented an electric bike for that tour, and I did about 1,000 kilometers on a 2-week tour. And I never went back to a regular bike after that, although I still have them. I just enjoyed it. I came back to Costa Rica, and I bought a really good quality electric bike, and I've been riding an electric bike ever since. So that's the electric bike story. How did I get on the one I rode from Alaska down? Evelo Bicycles approached me and asked if they could supply a bike, and we talked for a while, and they understood that I knew something about electric bikes. They understood that I had ridden long distances before. So they became my major sponsor. They provided us with 2 bikes, the Evelo Atlas. So my riding partners could ride that. My team could ride that, or ride with me. And lots of spare parts and sports, and they've been great for both parts of the trip. They've been with me the whole way from North America and South America. So electric bikes are something that you can tour on. I'm not the first person to ride an electric bike all the way from Alaska to Argentina. A Facebook friend of mine, Gustavo Sabatini from Slovenia, he beat me by a month. He started a month earlier than I did in Anchorage, Alaska, and he rode his bike all the way down to the bottom of Argentina. However, he was only 71 when he completed the trip, and I was 81 when I. So he claims the first person to do it. I claim the oldest person to do it for the record. He carried 3 batteries with him and didn't have any support vehicle. I had batteries, but I had the support vehicle, and I have an inverter in the van. And so when I deplete one battery, they can put it on the charger in the van, and I could put the new battery in, and we can keep going for long periods of time, just switching the batteries around. If we didn't have any plug-ins in the hotels, campgrounds, I took a generator for the Alaska Yukon Park, where we could wild camp at night and run the generator rather than the car to charge the batteries overnight. That's basically how we did it and how we got all the way down.
Incredible. Looking back on the trip, what are the best bits? Are there, most people can't commit to doing the entire trip themselves, but are there places that people should consider and put on their bucket list of just wonderful, destinations for riding?
There's a lot of them. Alaska, Yukon, northern British Columbia is awesome. The Pacific coast of the United States was amazing. I really enjoyed that. It stands out as something that everybody should try and do that. And there's a lot of organized tours that do that as well. You can do it on your own. You'll meet a lot of cyclists. It's a very busy cycle route. If you're bike packing, you get free camping at most of the state parks and everything if you're a hiker or a biker. Mexico was the most outstanding country that I enjoyed the most. The people there were the most friendly, the most hospitable, most generous. They would stop us. They would give us food. They would give us water. They would give us money. They would give us tequila. They would give us cerveza. They even offered us a big bag of marijuana one time, and we had to say, no, that looks a little dangerous to be carrying a big stack of marijuana. The culture there, the music there, the food, the colonial cities, magic cities. The Day of the Dead was a great celebration that we had such a good time in Oaxaca. I love Mexico. I've been there many times, and I hope to return there someday. The rest of the places, they're all great places. If you want to see beautiful countries like Colombia, be prepared to do a lot of climbing. 40,000 meters in 1 month is a lot of climbing. If you like, Peru was a country that got two extremes in Peru. You've got Machu Picchu, you've got Cusco, you've got the beautiful oasis at Ica, you've got NASCAR lines, you've got decent city in Peru, you've got so many cultures that live in the northern desert. Everything there to look at, but you've got great poverty, and you've got litter and garbage all along the roads, and you've got these two things that are competing for your attention. You've got great things, and at the same time you've got some things that aren't the best in the world. So Peru was so different, but that doesn't stop me from recommending all those great places to everybody there as well. And certainly in the wine of Chile and Argentina, it's worth traveling down here just for that.
Usually when I talk to people who've done, big journeys, they're usually younger and, maybe more impressionable. They haven't done big trips before. They're seeing a lot of things for the first time. For you, you've done so much already. How do you think this trip changed you or impacted you?
I don't know. That's kind of a hard question. When I think about it, I don't think I changed at all. I think I just get up and I go for a bicycle ride of 100 kilometers, and then I do it all again the next day. Because I travel, I've been in maybe over 100 countries, so I'm used to foreign cultures, but I'm always being reinforced that when I travel, that the people I meet and the cultures I go through, whether it's a different language or a different religion or whatever, the people are so awesome. They're like everybody else in the world. They're raising families, they're making ends meet, they want to be happy, everything. And it just reinforces all my beliefs. And I've always believed that if you're traveling and you're being exposed to all these things, it's very tough to be a bigot and a racist, and you need to get out and see the world and experience the people that are there. And sometimes you find out that what you're seeing is not what you, in real life, is not what you're seeing on television. That I expected to see migrants walking the highways heading for the United States to climb over the wall and all that. And we didn't see it. We saw migrants in a few locations and we chatted with them. but their life stories were different, and they weren't all from Central America, but most of the people we met for migrants were from Africa and a few from China. And I didn't realize that was, if you're from Somalia or Ethiopia, that these people get on a plane and they head over to Brazil or Ecuador because there's no system set out to stop those people from coming. And then they turn around and they walk thousands of kilometers through dense jungles and over mountains and across the Darien Gap, and they're trying to get to the promised land so they can send money back to their families. Their stories were heartbreaking when we talked to them, but we didn't see them on the road, but we did see them in a few cities as well. Now I've lost track of the original questions about how it changed me.
You answered it beautifully, and I think one thing you learn traveling, and you said it, how similar we all are, no matter where we're from, what language we speak, what beliefs we have. As humans, we're more similar than we are different, and that's what I learn, and it sounds like you learn as well from these big trips. My next question is, most of our listeners are not in their 80s. A lot of them are in their 30s to 50s. They might still be working a job or, just starting to think about retiring. What advice do you have for them in terms of how to live a life like you have?
First, if I was going to speak to people that were considering retirement, I would say you need something to be active. It doesn't have to be a sport. It could be a hobby. It could be writing a book. It could be anything, woodworking, anything that is going to keep you active. You just can't sit and do nothing all day long. And even with having one thing, you need to maybe have a second thing as well to counteract the physical activity. For me, I have a physical activity riding the bike, but I have a mental activity as well, trying to learn Spanish, which I'm failing at desperately. But I also spend a lot of time during the day doing mental type of things like planning my next odyssey through Europe and working with that, getting out and about as well. So be active, but have at least a couple of things in your life that helps you mentally and helps you physically as well.
Bob, you mentioned learning Spanish, and I think the most I've failed in my adult life is learning Spanish. I worked a little bit in Argentina, and I hired a private tutor, and for about 2 months, every day I'd wake up and I couldn't speak Spanish. And, in life, you don't fail 65 times in a row, but it just wouldn't take. And I speak French, so Spanish is fairly similar. And it was really, really tough. And then just all of a sudden one day I could speak Spanish. And I don't know if that's normal for everybody, but it is. It's so challenging to learn a second language once you're, no longer in school, because our brains are, they're kind of set. And in our lives, we don't fail very often, and especially not day after day. So I sympathize with the challenge you're in. And hopefully your yours comes a bit quicker than it did for me.
Well, I've been at it for a long, long time. And I'm afraid that learning the language and learning salsa dancing is just the hardest things I've ever done in life. And it's really tough because it goes in one ear, and by the time I translate the first word, I've lost everything else. So we speak a lot of Spanglish here in the house.
It'll come. I was the same way. And just one day, I don't know how, I woke up and I could do it. Last question is, you mentioned you're planning your next trip. What's next? What's your next big adventure?
I've sort of started thinking if Apple can use the same system, iPhone 1, iPhone 12, iPhone 13, iPhone 14, I can do the same thing. So I did Octogenarian Odyssey 1, which is North America, Octogenarian Odyssey 2.0, South America, now Octogenarian 3.0 is Europe. We're going to ride from Lisbon, Portugal, starting May the 1st, over to, we'll go through Portugal, Spain, Italy, Croatia, Albania, Montenegro, Greece, then into Turkey and a little bit of riding in Turkey, and finish up around the August 19th. I plan to have my birthday, 82nd birthday in Istanbul this year. So that's on the thing. We're using the same crew of my wife and Joanna as well, and the same vehicle.
That sounds incredible and a wonderful ride, and lots of great wine. You're going to be going through lots of great wine growing territories.
For sure, yeah.
Bob, I want to say thanks for coming on the show today. It's been really inspirational as well as really informative. And I think for a lot of people has let them consider maybe ways to do longer rides with their e-bikes, and just sharing, your passion for life and adventure. It's been great to have you on.
May I say, Richard, that if anybody there was interested, I did produce a book for the first octogenarian Odyssey. I called it Trading the Sofa for the Bicycle Seat. It's available in ebook on Apple and Kindle, and it's available on Amazon as well in Canada and U.S. and around the world. If you could put that in, that would be great. If anybody wanted to read about that part of the venture, I've got a second book coming out for South America out next summer as well.
I don't know how you find the time, Bob. Also, I'll put a link to those in the show notes. And also, if people just want to follow along, I know you have a website. Can you maybe share what the website URL is? And I'm not sure if you do social media, but lots of people like to follow on people on great journeys on Instagram or Facebook or things like that you can maybe share.
Where I have the most followers is on my Facebook page. And to find it, I say you should go to facebook.com/B&B travel. That'll take you to my personal Facebook page, where I tend to post pictures and happenings each day on the trip. I'm also under Instagram on Octo Odyssey, OCTOODY, and my webpage is octoodyssey.com.
I'll put links to all those in the show notes. And with that, that's the end of this episode. Thanks all for listening. We'll be back next week to explore the world and hear more epic adventures on the 10 Adventures podcast. Start planning your own adventure by visiting us at 10adventures.com and listen to other episodes of the 10 Adventures podcast on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you find your podcasts.